Do them into my OneDrive.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's bring the city council workshop for July 2nd, 2024 to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Carter,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Swatman,
Present.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Here.
Councilmember Fullerton,
Here.
Councilmember Hubler,
Here.
and Councilmember McClymans.
He is on the road virtually somewhere.
Well, he's got his hand up, but can we unmute him? Okay.
On his end.
Councilmember McClymans, are you able to unmute on your end?
Give us some kind of a finger sign that we know you're alive.
Hand go up.
That is. Yeah.
There you go. Cool. He is here.
All right. We have no presentations.
Call me.
Oh, you can call.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Miss me. I am
Are
present.
you not in here? Oh, yeah.
Aaron Davis.
Just skipped over you.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Awesome. Good.
Councilmember McClymans is having trouble not unmuting or something.
Is he going
Not
to
sure
be
what's going
here
on there.
at some point? or-
No, he's gone.
Oh,
He
okay.
is.
Out of town.
That's what he,
Undisclosed location as usual.
yeah. Sure.
What the?
Pretty close.
Cannot confirm
Darn
or
close.
deny where he's at.
Say
Yeah.
Exactly right.
He's somewhere on earth.
Maybe. Yeah. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Okay, well, he is unmuted on our end, so I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Should I text him?
You can,
Shall we all text him?
right, yeah,
Have a text conversation.
yeah, where we're just trying to,
Get him to open up.
yeah, get.
Take
figure out
off the mute.
What's going on.
The first time he ever read his text.
Okay, I told him.
Okay, well, at this point, we will move on. We still have quorum. We have no presentations. We'll move on to a review of council minutes. Councilmember Fullerton and Councilmember Hubler.
I did not see any changes.
Okay, excellent, Joe. Now on to council open discussion. Anything? Yep. Oh, Deputy Mayor Swatman.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I don't know if anybody knows anything new. I know that CDC, I requested them to take a look at what we could do in the future for extending our sewers into areas of outside the city possibly. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to do that or not. I don't know if anybody knew anything because, you know, I'm becoming concerned about areas that we could possibly want to sewer in the future that aren't sewered now, but the way I understood the old state regulations are that we couldn't go into areas outside of our, outside the city. There are other areas that we do that with, but, we're in a weird situation where there's urban areas outside the city that could potentially affect our water areas, and we need to have strategies available to us in the future so that if there becomes an issue that we can, have something to do out there. So you guys can be able to look at that.
So I actually, we had to cancel our meeting tonight because we did not have anything on the agenda, plus the unfortunate.
Yeah. Mhm.
But anyway, I did send a memo to Leslie Harris that I would like to have that put on a future agenda.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
And so I'll also be speaking with interim director Sullivan when he comes back and make sure that we are talking about that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I did follow up.
Any other discussion? Seeing no other discussion, we'll now move on to our discussion item. Mr. Vodopich, floor is yours. What's that?
ownership of the Reed property from the water fund to the general fund. If you'll recall, back in September of 2023, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with the Mount Rainier Athletic Club. And one of the deliverables on the city's behalf was bringing forward the potential transfer from the the water fund to the general fund. This was last before you in April, and it had been several months, and the mayor asked that we put it back on tonight's agenda for discussion.
Oh, Deputy Mayor Swanton.
Did you have something first?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to explain, I guess, part of this is getting it into the general fund takes care of the ratepayers because our rates are based off of this occurring. I think we've all talked about that before, but just as a reminder to council. And that this, we can then still either enter into a lease agreement with MRAC or sell it to them or someone else, essentially. So all of the options are essentially still open to us as to what we want to do with it. But this takes care of the ratepayers, essentially. So that's all I had.
Sure.
Deputy Mayor Swanton.
Yeah, thank you. Are we able to know what value we're talking about? Because if we're talking $5 or we're talking 5 million, there's a different conversation in my mind. I don't know is that something?
We previously brought that forward in an executive session.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That number.
Was a
That's the amount that we go with. We buy that from the general fund,
Uh-huh.
pay that back to the water fund.
correct.
And then whatever we decide going forward is different than that. We just need to get that transfer of ownership done. right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
The transfer of value. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
One fund to
basically, but-
another, essentially.
Because that's, part of my thought in the discussion is, it's my understanding it's a substantial amount of money and the general fund, we have to do that to be able to use, I guess, is my understanding, unless somebody's came up with some other way to do it. In order for that property to be used by, anybody else that's not for the water use, then you're going to have to transfer that value around somehow.
That's correct.
Unless somebody's figured out, there's been nothing new on that.
Nothing there.
So in order to do that, then you got a couple $1 million or whatever it is, it's, 100,000 millions of whatever it is, from our general fund, the citizens of Bonney Lakes general fund into the water, district or whatever you want to call it, water area, because you need to do that transfer. So right there, you're taking, a substantial amount of money out of the general fund, which are taxpayers of the city of Bonney Lake, and you're distributing that over the water fund because you have to, that's how that happens. But, you're moving a lot of money to a majority of people that are outside the city. And I was hoping somebody would be able to come up with a crafty way of doing that without, because you have to move the value, but I don't know if everybody can figure out, I don't hear anybody that's came up, because we have great minds on whether it's John Vodopich or the lawyer or Sherry or anybody's, we don't have any like, oh, this is the way you could do it without killing your general fund in my mind.
I haven't heard of any new ways to do that. I think we've asked them to.
I think this is the way.
Yeah,
That's-
this
that's-
seems to
that's
be
the
the only
recommended value way.
Yeah, this,
Yeah.
what I would say is this does, it takes care of the ratepayers and then the value you're talking about for citizens of Bonney Lake who paid
Yeah.
into the general fund and all that kind of stuff. They get the benefit of either, the lease and having a park essentially
Right.
out there,
Yeah.
moving stuff out there.
Yeah.
Or, we sell it to them or someone else and we get paid back for
Right.
that value. So the hope would be, I think, for all of us, that the citizens are not necessarily out that money necessarily without getting a public benefit.
Right, yeah, indeed, yeah. Because it's my understanding you can do an interfund loan between entities. Because we do, we have this, we run a water sewer district and we have a general fund, and it's my understanding that you could do a loan between the water fund and the general fund, an interfund loan.
Yeah, and I have to remember, we have
I
that.
don't know.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Sherry.
I'm
you
not-
wanna
You,
address that?
can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm
but-
not sure why you would want to do that because you also have to pay interest at the going rate.
Right,
So
yeah,
if the general fund has the money to pay, I'm not sure why you'd take a loan out.
Yeah, I know. And we've course, had these conversations, because it's kind of it's convoluted, right? Because you want to guard your general fund, in my mind. I should say I do, of course. So if you did the loan, you do that transaction where just to use a number, $2 million. I forget what it is. It's two or something. So you do a $2 million transaction there where the water fund loans the general fund and it has to charge interest, loans the general fund $2 million. So that's a transaction. So now the general fund has $2 million more on it. It has to pay back that loan to the water fund, right? Check. Understood. And so on another transaction, then you have to buy the general fund has to buy that land for fair market value. So the general fund buys the water land for $2 million. Okay. So now the general fund owns that land. Am I totally screwed up yet, Sherry?
I'm trying to follow you.
Right.
Not following.
We all.
I know, right? This is where I just like, okay, whatever. So now you have a loan out there from the water fund to the general fund in the form of a $2 million loan, say. And then at that point, you also own that land in the general fund. So you're like, okay, cool. Still got to pay back the $2 million.
To the water fund.
To the water fund.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then this value is going to come in, because this is the way we're doing it in the end anyways, is your MRAC or whoever it is going to create value with that land to the general fund. You know, there's, unless they want to buy it, even if they wanted to buy it outright. Say the easy one is MRAC comes in and says, hey, I want to buy the land for $2 million. And you're like, lucky yes, here you go. We own it in the general fund. We sold it to you. We write the check and we pay back the water fund. Transaction's done. Multiple transactions, right? If it doesn't happen that way, if MRSC decides that, oh, they want to, pay it over time, or they want, there's this value thing that we've been playing with where obviously there's a value to having this park, right?
I see where you're going.
So that value is going to come in to the general fund every year or however you want to book that.
It's
So
it's not true dollars. We truly owe the water
yeah.
fund. You can't
You do.
use
You do.
this. Yeah, but you can't use this nebulous value that we're not really receiving money of.
Right. That's kind of where we get kind of difference, right? Because
I would
you're
defer
doing
to
the same thing in the
attorney,
end.
but if
Because
you're
you,
saying, let's
right.
make up numbers and say it's a 4-year loan and MRAC is valued use is $50,000 a year. Well, that use, that quote value, has $0 attached to it. There's zero real money, but we truly owe, the general fund owes the water fund, not fake money, not just value. They truly owe hard cash.
Well, it
So
is value though, because
they
the
owe
way
cash.
the way I understand, if you just take it in the general fund, pretend all these things are in the general fund, if the land is in the general fund, we're not going to be able to just magically let MRSC use it without them paying us like something. And the concept, as I understand it, is they're going to pay us that value.
The general fund would owe the water fund cash. So that's
Value.
cash, hard cash.
Value, right? It's value, because if you flip it over to the general fund, right? Forget about the water fund right now. If this land was, forget about all that, and let's pretend that this land is in the general fund today, and that we're like going to let MRIC use it, right? Well, we can't just let them use it. They have to pay us in some value way, because we have a gift of public funds thing, right? We're working at a constitutional issue here, right? Check. So, there's a real value there. You just don't get to say, oh, hey, you're okay, just use it. There's a value. Somebody's like booking this value here.
They're leasing the land.
Yeah, and if they lease it for whatever, they can't.
Then they're also improving it.
Exactly, yeah.
But if we take a loan, if I go to buy a car and I buy a car for $2 million.
Yep.
With a 4-year loan,
Sure.
okay,
Mhm.
I don't get the title of that car until I pay off that loan.
Right.
So we can't, if we don't pay cash for the land, then we don't own the land.
Yeah, and but
So we have, if, as long as we're making payments
But
to
we
keep the
did that,
money
by
out
the
of the
way.
general fund.
we
So
we did that transfer. I did that earlier on in my little
in
convoluted.
your,
thing.
well, see, that's where I'm like thoroughly
I know, sorry.
trying to wrap my brain around what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm just saying, the long
So
story is.
he's
that,
trying
yeah.
to pay the water fund with value and not with cash.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I got you.
The same
So
way
that
we're
I would
trying to
defer
claim.
to our city attorney, because from my perspective as a CPA and as your finance director,
Yeah,
you
I know.
you owe
Yeah.
hard
yeah.
cash dollars, not value, to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
water fund.
Yeah, I agree. I see what you're saying. You know, we're not, I just don't know why we have to do that in that particular area when we don't have to do it in the general fund area. Because the general fund,
So I could take a shot at that, Deputy Mayor.
please go ahead.
So, the water fund, because the water fund is funded by ratepayers, and this land was acquired with water fund money, the water fund is entitled, it's called an enterprise fund. That means it's a fund that has to be self-sustaining. It's not one that is supported by general taxes. So when a enterprise fund purchases an asset, you can't just divert that asset for a use that does not serve the purposes of that fund. So if you cannot use it for anything other than providing capital facilities or whatever.
Yep.
You could build a water plant on there, you could build a well on there, but you can't divert that for, say, park uses. So when you dispose of an asset from a water fund or sewer fund or other enterprise fund, you have to do that for full and fair value.
Right.
That's what state law says.
Yep,
So
yep.
full and fair value is typically the appraised value.
Yep.
Fair market value. So you can't take the water fund property. You could lease it for full fair market value.
Right, but see, you jumped over my first part of my transaction, right?
Are you talking about a loan? The
yeah,
interfund loan?
yeah.
So I'm happy to talk about that. I'm
See
happy
what
to
I'm
answer.
saying? Because I paid real money there because there was an interfund loan where there was an interfund loan between the water and the general fund. You know, we actually like real cash, there's real hard cash.
So you can do interfund loans. You could say borrow the fair market value from the water fund to acquire that property by the general fund. The general fund borrows the money. Any interfund loan that is longer than 3 years is subject to intense scrutiny by the state auditor's office. So you don't, and it is looked at as a permanent diversion of assets or money.
Well,
So you would want to only do a 3-year interfund loan, and the general fund would have to pay back the water fund in cash with interest. The value that we've talked to MRAC about, what they're asking for and what is envisioned by the memorandum of understanding is a reduced rate lease in exchange for them providing a lot of public value in terms of building things that the members of the public can use. Those things that the members of the public can use have nothing to do with water. So that is not value that you can use to repay the water fund.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
That's where you could justify a lease for less than fair market value under the gift of public funds rules, but you can't, it's not a payback because it's not a water use.
Yeah,
So-
I know you went too far, but
Okay,
I think your
okay,
best
I'm just trying to
point
answer the
is-
question.
Yeah, but because they're layered over each other.
It's
But
very,
I think
confusing.
the main point was the 3-year piece, because if there's a 3-year piece on it, then my argument probably doesn't work. Because that was probably the key.
all right. Okay, well,
Yeah.
glad to provide that information.
I finally started to follow you and I agree.
You know?
Okay.
I'm like, if I could do it for 20 years and I could lay it out for 20, it might be good. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, the state auditor office typically considers that a permanent diversion, and that's very frowned upon.
Wow, those guys, picky.
Councilmember Baldwin.
What is the percentage of people that are Bonney Lake versus outside ratepayers then? Do we know that percentage?
For the water?
So I can understand Councilmember Swanton's concern with, the movement of the money and who the advantage is to based on maybe the percentage of people that are in Bonney Lake versus outside of Bonney Lake.
It's about double. It's the part of the water system that's inside Bonney Lake And the part of the water system that is outside Bonney Lake is about 50-50. If Jason was here, he could give you exact numbers, but the size of the water service and sewer service areas are about double the size of Bonney Lake.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, half of the ratepayers that, would be benefiting are Bonney Lake residents.
Roughly, yes.
Okay, question then, I hear it keep being said that it would benefit the ratepayers. How? How?
This, but essentially our rates were baked in having this dollar amount occur for this transaction to occur.
Okay.
So if it doesn't occur, then we're gonna have to raise rates. Essentially.
Mm.
I think is what-
Something in
Oh,
there. I don't
here you
remember
can-
what the figure
Good
was.
job,
There was
Mayor.
some-
Explain that. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I did a good job. Okay.
Yeah, because there's an allocation for that, but I thought it was like 1.2 million or whatever it was. But I don't- it's
That
somewhere
might have
in
been the
there.
plug number. I agree with you, Deputy Mayor. I think that was the plug number we used since we had no idea.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly.
Do,
Go ahead.
what did we figure out is the amount in the water fund then? How much money is in the water fund?
A lot.
And then how much
Uh,
money is in the general fund? And I know the general fund obviously funds general things, which is a lot of things.
So you're talking about like savings?
Yes.
I don't actually have the water number offhand. It wasn't one I was prepared to answer, but I did pull the other number for John.
Okay.
And John, correct me if if I sent it to him and kind of brain dumped it, but it's upwards of 20 million in the general
Yes.
fund.
That in our savings side of it, or just the general fund overall?
Ending fund
Fund
balance.
balance.
Ending
Oh,
fund,
And
okay,
fund balance.
okay. And now, if I remember correctly, last year is when you guys voted to lower the sewer or the water rates based on this property, wasn't it? Being sold?
No,
And I don't recall
The-
that.
I don't think we
the
had that in
rates-
there.
I'd have to
It
check
was
the rate study,
based
but the
off of
rates
the
were
loan.
built upon, yes, we had an assumption of that this property was going to be sold. So yes, the rates were built upon that model. I can verify tomorrow. I can't look on the computer while we're doing this, but I can certainly verify for you. But the sewer rates are what were reduced. I think the water rates really just didn't increase as much.
Councilmember Baldwin.
So I guess, Deputy Mayor Swatman, is your concern that there is going to be maybe too much of a chunk taken out of the general fund? Because I know we are constantly being told kind of left and right here that the general fund is tight, the general fund is tight, and then it's like, no, the general fund isn't tight. And so it's a bit of a confusing conversation
think-
on the regular.
I think it's
I can
more,
certainly explain that if you want me to.
yeah,
Sorry.
please go ahead. No, that's
Uh,
okay.
So the general fund, your regular budget is tight, meaning your day-to-day revenues and your day-to-day expenses.
Things that are earmarked, basically.
Um,
Yes?
no, I wouldn't even say earmarked. So it's what we build the budget upon, right? So a yearly budget is built upon my estimation of revenues and then what everybody puts together telling me they're going to need. The revenues must exceed the expenditures in order to have a balanced budget. Now, if we had a really good year on sales tax like we did in 2022, then that money gets put into the general fund's quote ending fund balance and we kind of make up some money, and build some savings that way. A lot of the savings came from, as you guys recall, ARPA funds. We chose to use the ARPA to support police revenue. I mean, police expenditures, police salaries. And then that essentially saved a lot of this money into the general fund so that we could use it at a later date. I don't know if you kind of remember, there was a scare there that the legislature was going to talk about taking back any money that hadn't been used for a while.
Yeah.
Back when they were trying to balance their budget. So that was a tactic we used.
I'll just take that right.
So you're saying that there's like $20 million of unallocated funds that's what the
Correct.
ending fund balance is.
Correct.
We,
And
we don't need that for day to day or whatever
you don't for
operations.
day to day. I do know that some people are going to ask you to use some of it. Chuck is going to be coming forward asking for the software system upgrade, which is, close to $1 million, probably more. And yeah, so in the next budget, you'll see some requests for some of that money. Typically what you have used that money on, use it to support your parks. You guys transferred $3 million to the park fund a year ago. And then the other fund that's probably getting kind of short is your street fund. So in the future, I definitely see if we don't approve some sort of transportation benefit district, that you'll end up using your general fund to support your street fund.
Is that ending fund balance like very large or something, or is that
We've been
which?
building it up. Yeah. It's been increasing a little bit every year. And it's just, people put in, say, our general fund budget is about 22 million each year. And if revenues come in better than projected, we save. If people don't spend everything they thought they were going to spend, we save. So we've done a pretty good job about setting money aside. When I started, it was about 4 million.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Sherry, first of all, thank you so much for being long-sighted financially. I appreciate that. With that being said, when you say that $20 million is unallocated funds, basically in the general fund, I think in the scheme of things, maybe for those of us that don't have a budget in the millions, that may seem like a large chunk of money to me. If I were doing risk assessment, that's a very tiny amount for
Yeah.
a city. Does that sound right? I mean, because 1 million here, 3 million there, I mean, that'll go away immediately
Correct.
Yep.
if
Correct.
you're,
It's a healthy amount for us to have right now because we also have a contingency fund. And then you also have the cumulative reserve fund that Councilmember Evans implemented. And those both have about 1.2 million in them.
Both of them
Those
together?
are essentially not spendable at all, though,
Yeah.
based upon council restrictions.
Is that both of those funds together, Sherry? Is that
No, the contingency fund has 1.2 million, and I believe the cumulative reserve has a little more than that, but we've been setting some money aside. When you guys put that together, or Councilmember Evans brought that forward, we started setting money aside in there for replacement of laptops, as well as the future, quote, Eden replacement. So there's some money in there that is going to be used this next budget cycle that has been specifically set aside for that.
Councilmember Baldwin.
with a lot of the kind of this feet dragging that's been going on in regards to working with MRAC. I guess I haven't really heard an update. So are they still interested in working with us, and what is the next steps? Because it's been a
So yes,
Wow.
I met with Scott and I. We were supposed to come up with a little committee thing, and then Councilmember Roach kind of.
yeah.
So anyway, I met with him. Still interested in doing something. There for a little bit, he was interested in the Anderson property. That has not fleshed out, so he's still very interested in working with us and the Reed property.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all my questions.
Yeah, they are growing MRAC. I just met with him today, so
Mhm.
it's still moving forward.
Any other discussion? All right. Any other discussion topics?
How would we like to proceed with this one?
Me personally, I think we should do it. I mean, if our rates are contingent on this property selling one way or the other, I think we have to do it to make sure the rates stay down. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I think it makes sense. Sorry, Councilmember Davis.
Well, and I think the other point is too, is the general fund, while losing the cash that it costs to purchase the value of the property, we still have the value of the property in the general fund. So we're just exchanging cash for value of the property. So at some point we could recapture that cash in one way or another. So it's not like we're just disappearing a few $1 million here. It's there. It's just in a different form.
But forward.
Okay.
So does that mean it goes on the consent agenda, or are we putting it on
Yeah.
a work,
the full agenda?
full agenda? Okay,
I'll have
Yeah.
something to say.
Yeah, somebody-
We'll look at the schedule and we'll,
sure you will.
Deputy Mayor Swatman will have a flow chart for us.
Right.
Make sure.
Yeah,
Wait
I'll
a
look at
minute.
it.
Turn left.
Any other discussion?
And I'll follow up. I'm sorry. And I'll follow
Oh,
up
go ahead.
Councilmember Hubler tomorrow with the information on what was put in the rate study for that.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, we'll move on to our main event. We received 2 applications. So does council want to continue and have interviews, or do you want to reopen the vacancy for more applications?
Like to continue.
I would like to continue, yeah.
Everybody's ready to continue? Okay, very good. All right, we'll now have the council member vacancy interviews. Please remember that we will follow the rules of decorum and Article 10 of the council policies and procedures. That is for all council meetings and workshops. The interview process will be all candidates will be asked to please go to the lobby and wait until you are called in for your interview. I will ask Mr. Vodopich to please ask each candidate to come in by order the applications were received. Well, there's only 2. To the interview table, the candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and to give us a little bit about their background while covering the 5 questions that were included in the application. The council will have 10 minutes to ask any additional questions. Please remember that council motioned and approved to suspend Article 18 of the council policies and procedures for these interviews in order to ask follow-up questions to the candidates. There are some suggested supplemental questions that were included in the packet council was given. After the candidate has been interviewed, we ask that you please return to the lobby until all candidates are finished. After all candidates are finished or have been interviewed by council, we will go into executive session to discuss the qualifications of each. Council may then take nominations and a vote or decide or defer until a future meeting. And actually, after the meeting or after the interviews are done and before we go to executive session, there'll be an opportunity for the public to speak specifically to the issue of the vacancy.
Oh, during this meeting.
Yeah, during this meeting. Okay. So Ms. Rock, please have a seat in the lobby. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Bowler.
Yeah, when I was looking through everything, I didn't see questions filled out. For
It was in their
Or-
application.
Gilmer.
Like,
Yeah, they submitted their application in there.
No, I saw that, but there wasn't the same
The
questions.
last, that's the 5 questions.
It's built into.
Nope,
pages
it's not there. Nope.
Did other people
Is-
get it?
I see Brittany Rocks. I see Brittany Rocks,
Okay.
where there's questions 1 through 7, and they're specifically answered.
This one that says several years ago, that one has his answers.
Yeah, that's just the way that you enter the
Mm,
answers into. the
Okay, well,
system.
I read that, so.
All right. Our first candidate is Mr. Gilmer. Please have a seat at the table.
You look spiffy today.
With the bow tie.
All right. It's nice to see you. Yeah, thank you.
See you too.
So we'll start. I'm going to start with Councilmember Hubler.
Do is,
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Correct. We'll give you 5 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Resident of this city since 1991. An active member of the community and that I volunteer with a couple of organizations, Kiwanis Club. I volunteer at the senior center here in town. Have been since they told me I was old enough to qualify. Love my city, and I will refer to it as my city. If you've been here for a while, you've taken ownership. I'm also for the past 10 years, a state licensed insurance producer, specializing in Medicare, long-term care, life insurance, and retirement income. Absolutely love what I do. I celebrated my 71st birthday in February and often am asked, well, when do you intend to retire? As long as you love what you do, why would you want to retire? And I absolutely love what I do. This is my wife, Kathy. We've been married for 7 years. And I was here last Tuesday night commenting about the appropriations for the senior center, where there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Heard about the position and had actually wondered for the past 4 or 5 years, I wonder what it would like to be a part of the council. So to come here on that night and hear that there's a vacancy, that I don't have to buy signs and put them in neighbors' yards, it seemed to me like more than just a coincidence. So we talked back and forth. This is a big commitment. Do I want to do this, or was this just a passing dream? I feel that, and I made the decision to go ahead and submit an application because I believe that certain things happen for a reason. And so I'm here tonight to apply for that position of council member. I'll be straight up with you in that I've never had, other than president of the Kiwanis Club for 2 years, I've never had a civic position, civic government position. So this is new for me. But I do consider myself an influencer and a leader. You don't have to necessarily lead from the very top. I believe that leaders can be plucked from the center, sometimes even the guy that needs to become a leader. So I welcome this position. I will be dedicated to it. I still intend to work and do both, and also be a husband and father to my kids. I'm pretty much an open book. So whatever questions you have for me tonight, feel free to fire away. I'm privileged to know some of you for several years. I look forward to meeting everyone, regardless of whether I get this position or not. You're important people in the city, and I think it's a good idea for people to know who you are. So that's all I have.
Well, thank you for stepping forward. And this is always a big deal to step forward to take a civic action, and it takes a lot of guts and heart and all that kind of stuff to do so. So thank you for that. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember Hubler for the first question.
Thank you for coming tonight. Sorry. Since we only get one question, this is a really hard one to choose one question, and you have to ask each person. So how would you contribute to the city council, and how do you plan to meet the concerns of citizens?
I'm a good listener. And I think if you're on the council or serve on staff with the city, you have to be a good listener. You have to be open to ideas other than your own. I believe that the council is made up of people who all have something to contribute. I believe it's necessary to have a willingness to meet in the middle somewhere in order to get things done. I believe that as a council member, being able to step back from your personal views and being able to see what's best for the city, what's best for the council in order to make change for the city, all of that has to play in together. It's not a council of one, it's a council of 6 and a mayor. So the decisions that I make have to be for the greater good of the city, not myself. Because then we go in many different directions according to what our feelings might be or how we see a subject. I see myself as being a good listener, able to find the middle of the road, find a willingness to compromise in order to get things done. I think those talents will be very important at this job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you for being here. We spoke earlier and I was on that side of the table not too long ago, so I know how nervous you could be when you come in. So appreciate you applying and being here today. So that's great. The question I have for you is something that our city kind of has been grappling with, the balancing of public safety and personal privacy. So how would you approach the balance between public safety measures that require some personal privacy concessions, such as, i.e. traffic cameras?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Like I said before, regardless of whether I like cameras or not, we're talking about the safety of the public. And in order to minimize injury, tragedy, death sometimes, the safety of everyone that's on the road, if something like that is what's needed, there are going to be those citizens that look upon it as an invasion of their privacy. They have a right to drive down the highway at any speed they want to. But we all know that's not necessarily true, right, Chief? And so, once again, it comes back to the greater good of the city. We can't have the speedway on 410. If it means putting up a traffic camera, and that's the way to help curtail that 15 or 20% that wants to use it as a speedway, then after research, after talking about it, that's what needs to be done. Because none of us want our children or grandchildren to be the one that gets involved in something that they don't come back from. Not only parents and grandparents that would affect, but I'm thinking if you're sitting on the council, it's affecting you that this happened in your city, my city. For those of who might feel that as an invasion of my privacy, I can drive whatever I want to, you have no right to take a picture of me, then don't speed. Don't break the law. Slow down, obey the traffic laws. Everybody will get along just fine. So I don't see there as being greater significance in individual rights than there is for the safety of our citizens. One has so much more priority than the other one does. I think that answers your question, unless you've got a clarifying question for me.
Are we allowed to ask those right now?
Clarifying question, yeah.
If you have, if
Oh,
you.
sorry, this is a new process for me and for us too. So,
Me too.
yeah, so I do have one clarifying question. So I appreciate your answer and a lot of what you said, I agree with. So how would you ensure transparency then to the public when implementing these measures to kind of ease their, maybe ease their concerns about their personal privacy being invaded? How would you convey that to the public?
Well, that part where I said you have to discuss it, I mean, that obviously that's with the city attorney to bring them into the picture, because someone's going to get upset. Someone's going to fight that tooth and nail. It has to come back to what's the greater good for the citizens. It's going to offend somebody. We know this because if we look in surrounding cities that have done cameras, there's constant battles. When it comes to a court date and that wasn't me driving the car, you can't prove that was me, back and forth. Which is why I said there needs to be some research into how that moves forward so that all the ducks are in a row, that we've got the backing of the law, we've got the backing of the police department, and we can move forward. It's for the safety of everyone in the city, whether they're driving now or whether they're driving 10 years from now. You can't wait until 10 years from now and have some really, really bad traffic accidents, some loss of life, damage to property, and go, I wish we'd have done something back when we had a chance. There are going to be people that are upset. Everyone has their private rights. We understand that. I would not want to be in a position where it's too invasive. I think there's a way to curtail that 20% and still respect everyone's rights, that would be that discussion part of the answer.
Thank you.
Mayor Swatman.
All righty, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Ernest. Really appreciate our conversation the other day too, because of course I called the candidates and had a nice conversation with them
I was surprised.
individually, always want to do that. Appreciate your time on that, and thank you for your service to the community overall, right? You guys are out there in the service organizations doing a great job. So always appreciate that, and thank you for putting your application in. My kind of question revolves around, of course, a lot of key issues in the city of Bonney Lake today that are for the citizens of the Bonney Lake that are concerned about. And how would you be the best candidate to work on those key issues for the citizens?
I think I meet the requirements. Not only the requirements that are stated on the website, but you have to be able to listen to people. You have to be able to respect each individual's ability and what they say. I have a feeling that once I'm on the council, there could be times when maybe I disagree with someone else, but there has to be a middle of the road somewhere, a give and take, where we can meet together and get things done, not for each other necessarily or any type of agenda, but for the betterment of the city now, 20, 30, 40 years from now. Here again, if we wait, we put things off, it just makes it harder down the road. That's my experience. Harder usually translate to costlier.
Yeah.
And so it becomes of utmost importance to get things done now. Once again, I'm a good listener. I'm going to listen to everyone's opinion and how they feel things should progress. And I'm going to be devoted to finding that middle of the road. I walk into this with no agenda of my own. Last Monday night, this was the furthest thing from my mind. But because of events and how they happened, I had to do this. I just feel I had to. Yeah.
Councilmember Fullerton.
Hi, Ernie. It was nice speaking to you today. I gave you a little call and tried to acquaint you with myself and get acquainted with you before the meeting tonight. So thank you for your time. So my question tonight is, we have many projects the city would like to finish. However, funding is always an issue. At what point is it a good idea to accept grants from the state or decline grants?
Question. Mining grants. Accepting grants from the state. I think if the money's on the table and it's something that we need to complete, something that's been taking a slow course, and that money's there, we should take advantage of it. Declining something like an appropriation or grant, I can't. I can't think of a reason why you would want to do that unless it was something that you weren't positively sure was in the best interest of the city and the citizens and something you wanted to complete. Otherwise, to not take money on the table when it's offered, maybe I just don't understand the process yet. But if someone puts the money on the table and says, here, take it if you want it. If you want to get that done, here's the funds. I'm first in line. Money doesn't just fall off trees. We know that. But if someone's willing to, after meeting certain criteria, say, here's the money.
Okay, I don't have any follow-up
Good.
questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you so much for coming. My question is, what is the role of government, if any, in regards to charity?
There's the charity.
Mhm.
I would say it probably depends on the purpose of the charity. Are you talking about, can I ask questions too?
You could ask a clarify. Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So government's awarding money or making money available to charities, is that
Right.
how I feel about that?
Yes. Taxpayer money for charity. And the government being a part of that, if any.
I would say each case bears examining. What is the purpose of that charity? What does it do for the citizens in our community? If those don't align, I'm not so sure that there should be a funnel to just ship off money. It's gotta, the charity has to align with the direction of the city, the direction that the city wants to grow, the direction that the city sees how it's going to be 20, 30, 40 years from now. There's got to be an exchange there, not just here's a bunch of money. What that charity does, if certain criteria are met, and if the mission of the charity is for the citizens and the betterment of the citizens, depends again on how much money we're talking about. And if the money is there to do that. If the money is not there to do that, then that kind of makes it undoable.
I have some follow-up questions for you then. Then how does government decide then who gets money and who doesn't? In your opinion?
By the mission of the charity, what they do. I mean, I can be a charity that doesn't give anything back to the community. I can be a charity that just doesn't line up with the ideals of the city, with the growth direction of the city. If my charity doesn't do those things, I'd feel bad about going and asking for money. I don't think you should just give money because someone happens to be in the room. They have to have the same mindset, they have to be going in the same direction as everybody else.
Could you give me a hypothetical example, like a realistic example of like just a charity, just a made up one that you feel like would,
Well,
that we could say yes
I
to?
keep thinking about the Kiwanis Club, but we're not really a charity. We do charitable things,
Mhm.
but we're not a charity.
But would you say the Kiwanis Club would be one that would qualify, like under kind of your description?
I tried to imagine where we would take charity donations. I can't because Kiwanis International
Yeah.
has grants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to apply for them. It just doesn't appear on the desk. And I would think most charities, there's other ways for them to get money. What the city money, where the city money goes has to align with the city's direction. If I'm a charity and I'm providing free meals on Friday nights, I don't know as I would just give them money. First, there'd have to be an application process. And that's, in that application process is where you discover what their ideals, what their mission is. And all that goes into determine whether there's any money for them. Am I opposed to giving a charity money? Not necessarily. Um, Money makes the world go around. So if that charity helps the citizens of our city, if it benefits underprivileged children, yeah, I mean, that would be a charitable organization that I would consider supporting in some way, whether that's money from the city or not. Maybe it's a partnership with some other organization that does have pockets.
I have one more follow-up question then.
We are at the 20-minute mark, and don't forget Councilmember McClymonds too.
Okay, that could be done.
Can you extend that?
Was he able to unmute himself?
He did. Supposedly. He said he was.
You're good then.
Sure.
Yeah, I think are you there, Councilmember McClymonds?
Can we extend,
Yes.
We can now.
We
Hi, Kelly.
can we
There you go.
extend the time
I'll
for
be
each?
Hi, Ernie. Thanks for coming tonight and congratulations on
And I would like to ask.
stepping forward. It's always, for serious people, it's always a serious decision. I believe that's probably consistent with where you're at. So my question is as follows. In Washington State, condemnation is equivalent to the idea of eminent domain, where a government authority can seize somebody's personal property. Under what conditions do you find condemnation appropriate for a city and why?
A lot of factors into that question. So the purpose of taking a person's property, and that's what we're speaking about, property, right? So the reason behind it is paramount. And I think all that should be approached after every other possible measure has been exhausted. We're funny people. What we own, we like to keep around us. But sometimes, here again, for the city and for the growth and for the general public, things happen. It's not going to be pleasing to everyone. But through negotiation and compromise, I think that quite often, and it does get accomplished, so we know that it can be done. I don't see it as being a bad thing. I see it as being sometimes a necessary thing.
Be able to question?
Yeah,
Procedure?
I think if you're just talking about Baldwin, yeah, I think we can do that.
Did Kelly have a
So,
follow-up
it's-
or?
Yeah, is that the end
No.
of your question?
Ernie, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Baldwin, would you just want to finish up your question?
Yes, I would.
Move on.
What amount do you feel is appropriate then? Because that was something you had mentioned, that if it's an appropriate amount that a charity is asking for, what do you feel like is an appropriate amount to ask government for?
A lot of research and discussion goes into that before it gets to that point.
Let's say it's 150,000. And it's for the underprivileged children example you had used. Would you say that that is an appropriate amount?
I think it comes down to what's going to be accomplished for that 150,000. If it's building a new clubhouse for the kids, I'd look at that a little bit harder. If it's securing a building or somehow making their mission easier, um, all that goes into consideration. I'm just not sure that to say, okay, you're a charity, we got money available for you. I'm not sure that's the right approach. Um, Show me why you need the money. What's the money going to go for? How will that charitable organization use that money? And it'd have to be a very selective process because I don't think we, as a city, should just turn around and support every charity that comes forward and says, "Hey, I need some money." Um, but I do believe if the right situation came up, the right charity came up and said, "This is what we want to do with this. This is who is going to benefit from this." I don't, at this point, understand why we wouldn't want to consider that if we're in a position to spend that money. Um, you have to be cautious about what you do. There has to be guidelines from the get-go that this is just not an open checkbook. Tell us how much you want it for. Um, and each approach for funding would have to be looked at intensely. But just blanket say, no, that's not what we do. I think if the right charity came along and said, hey, we need your help here. We got evicted from our building. We don't have a place to feed these kids on a Friday night. Can you help? Maybe it's not money. Maybe it's a building. Contributions for a charity could be made in other ways.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. for coming.
I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
We're gonna have you step outside. Mr. Vodopich will grab Mrs. Rock. Hello. Go ahead and just have a seat up here. Thank you for stepping up and stepping forward to put your name in for this duty, civic duty for all of us. It's much appreciated that people do step up for these roles. Thank you.
You look nice.
So take 5 minutes and tell us about yourself and why you want to do this.
Good evening. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I'm very excited about this opportunity. My name is Brittany Rock. For the past decade, I've been a proud member of our Bonney Lake community. My husband is a lieutenant for the Tacoma Police Department, and together we have 2 wonderful children. My desire to serve in city government is driven by my commitment to ensuring that our community remains a wonderful place to live and raise our children. Over the past few years, we've witnessed neighboring cities suffer due to poor local governance. I do not want to see that happen to our beloved city. If given the opportunity to serve on the city council, I aim to maintaining economic prosperity and preserving the greatness of Bonney Lake. For the past 16 years, I have been a small business owner operating Fox Hollow Coffee in Tacoma. My journey began in high school when I took on a weekend job there. At age 21, I purchased the business from the previous owner, and since then, I've successfully operated it. This has given me a comprehensive understanding of the various facets of running a business. My experience has honed my problem-solving skills and adaptability, making me adept at identifying issues and implementing effective solutions. Additionally, my background in real estate, spanning over a decade, has further refined my customer service skills, attention to detail, and negotiation abilities. Combined, these experiences have equipped me with excellent collaboration and communication skills. I have volunteered with various different organizations. I participated in the Big Brother Big Sister program, and although my mentee aged out of the program, we continue to develop a lasting relationship. Volunteering with this program has given me firsthand experience in building meaningful relationships, fostering personal growth, and understanding diverse perspectives. By connecting with individuals from different backgrounds and gaining insight into their unique challenges and needs, I am better equipped to represent and advocate for citizens across our community. I served as a chairperson for the Adopt a Family Planning Committee with Catholic Community Services. We organize and shop for Thanksgiving and Christmas meals for over 150 families. We also coordinated family adoption for Christmas shopping and gift deliveries. This experience demonstrates my ability to coordinate large-scale community efforts and manage resources effectively. Currently, I am a PFC chairman for Cascade Christian McAlder, planning activities and events for students and creating and organizing opportunities for parent involvement. This experience highlights my community engagement and leadership capabilities. While living in Sky Island, I served on the HOA board as the maintenance director. My experience involved overseeing the maintenance and management of community property. This included ensuring upkeep and addressing maintenance issues. I engaged with homeowners and addressed concerns to resolve conflict. This demonstrates my ability to foster community relations and mediate disputes. Last year, I had the pleasure of volunteering with Beautify Bonney Lake to help clean up Midtown Park. It was the first time I had heard about the program, and I was thrilled to have the opportunity to contribute. I look forward to continuing my involvement with Beautify Bonney Lake for years to come. I have a strong desire to learn, and despite having limited experience with council duties, my eagerness to understand and serve the community is my driving force. With the heart of an entrepreneur and a go-get-'em attitude, I believe that with perseverance and faith, we can accomplish great things. If given the opportunity to serve on the council, I have a particular interest in supporting small businesses. I believe in working with and supporting our small local businesses to help them thrive and be successful. This is advantageous for the common good, and I would like to work with them to encourage their development within our city. I consider the primary roles of a member of City Council to serve the citizens by prioritizing the needs and interests of the community, making decisions that improve the quality of life for all residents. It is the role of a council member to manage the resources and financial commitments responsibly. This includes using taxpayers' money as efficiently and effectively as possible, ensuring every dollar is spent in a way to bring the most benefit to our community. Council members must actively listen to the concerns and suggestions of our community members. By understanding their perspectives, a position can be used to advocate for policies and initiatives that best benefit the citizens of Bonney Lake. While I am committed to my family and my businesses, I am highly efficient at time management. I have a flexible schedule which would allow me to prioritize my service to the city. I am confident that my work and personal responsibilities will not hinder my ability to effectively serve on City Council. With my experience and determination, I am confident I could be a valuable asset to our city. Thank you for your time tonight and for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Councilmember Hubler.
Thank you for coming tonight. How would you contribute to the city council and how do you plan to meet the concerns of citizens?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh,
Two pieces. So I've got this.
I know. How would you contribute to this city council and how do you plan to meet the concerns of citizens?
So to contribute to the city council, I think I do bring a different perspective being a small business owner. And just the fact I care deeply about the community and the city, and that's why I want to be involved. And as far as, sorry,
No.
super nervous. And as far as handling concerns from our community, I think that's the biggest thing is staying involved with the community, talking to residents, listening to what it is that they have to say, collecting their feedback, and taking that into account in the decisions that are made in this room.
Thank
you.
Councilmember Davis.
Thank you for being here. Like I told prior candidate, I was there not long ago, so I understand the nerves. So definitely just take a deep breath and you're doing wonderful. So I have a question for you about, so our city continues to grapple with balancing public safety and personal privacy. So how would you approach a balance between public safety measures that may require some personal privacy concessions? So as example, traffic cameras.
So I think we trace things back to constitutional law, and I think public privacy is an utmost concern as far as traffic cameras. If there are cameras that could potentially capture a license plate and not a face, but then who do you know who's driving the car and who to issue a ticket to? I would have a lot more that I would need to learn specifically about traffic cameras. But I think privacy takes precedence. I won't say it takes precedence over safety because I believe safety is a top priority for our citizens. But I think there's something to be said for protecting people's privacy as well.
Okay. And so with that, just a quick follow-up question. So what other ways can you think of to enhance public safety without compromising somebody's privacy?
I think that we have issues with traffic safety. I think adding sidewalks would be beneficial throughout the city. Um, that's a big one for me is if the city were more walkable in a safe way, that would be one way that we could increase public safety without infringing on anyone's privacy.
Deputy Mayor Swatman.
Sure, thank you, Brittany. I really appreciate you coming and putting your application in, and you get 12 points for calling me before I called you. So that was really great to have a conversation, and I really appreciate that so that we can get to know each other better. So my question revolves around, there's a lot of key issues that city issues that you live here, obviously within the city limit. So those key issues, how are you going to be a great resource to work on those key issues that you see in our city?
I think the number one thing is educating myself so that I can be a key resource to citizens. If they come to me with questions and I don't have an answer, it's as simple as, please give me your contact information. Let me get an answer and get back to you. You can't be of help when you don't know what it is that you're talking about. So being present and gaining as much knowledge about those issues as possible.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fullerton.
Hi, thank you for being here, and it was nice to have a conversation with you this afternoon. So nice to meet you. So my question is that we have many projects that the city would like to finish. However, funding is always an issue. At what point is it a good idea to accept or not accept grants to fund these programs?
I think can be a great attribute to a city where we can accept funds that are removing what could otherwise be a financial burden to its citizens. However, I also think grants need to be thoroughly researched, and we need to make sure that we understand all of the stipulations that along with the grants so that we're not committing ourselves or future generations to obligations that cannot be upheld.
Thank you.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Hello there. What is the role of government, if any, in regards to charity?
So this is a tricky question, and I know that this has been brought up with the council before. I believe charity is up to the individual. I think if government gets involved in charity, where do you draw the line? What charity do you choose? How do you make it fair? How do you keep yourself from being in a place where it's a liability and now you've donated to one but not the other? So I think it is best for government to not, and it's not our money to be charitable with. It's the citizens' money, and that's not necessarily how they are choosing to donate their funds.
I have no follow-up questions.
Councilmember McClymans.
Kelly, paging Kelly.
Good evening.
There he is.
Good evening.
I was hoping I was done.
Sorry, it takes a while from the R6. You know, it takes a while for the system to allow me to unmute. Sorry for the delay. Good evening, and thanks for being here, Ms. Rock. It's amazing to come and interview. I know I sat there. It's a hard thing, so thank you. So condemnation in Washington State is equivalent to the process of eminent domain, where government takes personal property. Under what conditions is it appropriate for the city to take personal property, and why?
I do not support eminent domain. There is a clause in the Constitution stating private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. But just compensation is widely open for interpretation. And I believe eminent domain can easily offset the balance of government. So I do not support eminent domain. There's always an opportunity for city or government to purchase property. Just present an offer to the seller or to the owner of whoever they're trying to buy outright. And if they refuse, then I believe they need to wait until it becomes available on the market.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all for now. So I think we will, let's see here.
Are we going into
We're
executive?
done with that. So now, no, we're going to have Mr. Gilmer come back in,
Oh.
and then we'll have an opportunity for
Oh, public.
citizen comment before we go into executive session. Sure, that's right. Okay.
See your red nose.
It's a,
You must have hooked that up. Yes. Yes.
turn to page 4. That's
Right? Yeah, it's like, what the-
Those are cute glasses. Thank you. Try them.
All right. Before we discuss candidates, we'll have public commenting for only this item. This is your time to address the council on the council vacancy only. The city will now enable the video and microphone for those attending virtually. You will need to turn on your video and microphones on your end if you are wanting to be seen or heard. We will start with those who are here in person and move to virtual comments afterwards. You have 5 minutes. State your name and address for the record, please. Anyone who would like to make a comment about the vacancy, you can do so. Okay, I don't see anybody stepping forward. We'll now start those that are virtual. You have 5 minutes. State your name and address for the record, please. Okay, all done?
Yeah, I muted them.
Okay.
Maybe they have to be told if they.
Is there anyone online who would like to make a comment about the vacancy?
Do they know they have to unmute them?
Do they have to unmute their
They
own
have
mic?
to unmute themselves. Yeah, they have to unmute on their.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, if you would like to make a comment, you need to unmute on your side. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. All right, the city will now disable all video microphones for those attending virtually. And we will now go into executive session for, how long do we think we need? 20 minutes? Say 20 minutes to start with. Per RCW 42.30.1101H to discuss the qualifications of a candidate for appointment to elective office with action to follow.
It's good news.
Thanks. Definitely big enough. Yeah, well, we'll get with Candace tomorrow.
Minutes on the clock.
For those who are attending virtually, the council did come out and ask for another 20 minutes. They are in executive until 8 o'clock currently.
Kelly, get on yet? Paging Kelly, paging Kelly.
He's on there, yeah.
Is he gonna dial in or?
I don't think.
We have to wait till exactly 8 o'clock to start.
Sometimes this room is so stuffy.
I know.
Like this.
Yeah.
We just seen him. He was just, where did he go?
No, I'm like,
He was on there.
That's him there, isn't it?
Oh, I think that is him.
on? Okay. All right, 8 o'clock, we're gonna restart our meeting here. I would just like to say thank you to both candidates. You both are amazing candidates, and we are lucky to have both of you apply for the position. And whoever doesn't get it, there's a planning commission spot still available, so
Right?
please put in. All right, so council, is there any discussion before nominations?
No.
Okay. You gonna say something, Deputy Mayor? Paul?
Just make a nomination.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask. So please state your nominations.
I nominate Brittany Rock.
Okay. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay. Nominations are closed. And I think by acclamation, Brittany Rock is appointed to the council position. Yeah, thank you very much. Ms. Rock, you will be sworn in at the next council meeting. It's next Tuesday.
Bring your friends and family
Right.
if you want, or not.
All right. Let's see if there's anything else here. I think that's it. Seeing as no more business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
The